It started as a simple experiment. Scientists fed thousands of hours of crow sounds into AI, expecting only random animal noise. Instead, the system found what looked like structured language, patterns so complex they rivaled human code. Then the AI traced a unique sound to a specific man wearing a red hat. The sound repeated days later, and then another crow that had never seen the man used the same sound a week later. Suddenly, every assumption about who is really watching whom is in doubt. If crows can label us, predict us, and adapt the moment we learn their secrets, what else have they organized right under our noses? The evidence is about to turn everything you know about animal intelligence and privacy on its head. The first step was to make sense of chaos. In a lab filled with servers and tangled cables, the team built a transformer-based acoustic language model, an AI system similar in spirit to the tools used on whale songs and bat calls. They started with raw field recordings, nearly 3,000 hours of crow sounds captured from city blocks and farmland, rooftops and forest edges. Each file was run through a battery of pre-processing steps, denoising, bandpass filtering, amplitude normalization, until only the cleanest signals remained. Every call was sliced into short fragments and converted into meal spectrograms, the same method used in state-of-the-art birdsong analysis. From there, the AI clustered these fragments into discrete tokens, a process not unlike inventing an alphabet for a language no one speaks. To test whether these tokens were more than random noise, the team set up rigorous controls. They shuffled call sequences, ran permutation tests, and compared results to thousands of random relabelings. The real data stubbornly refused to behave like chance. Mutual information between tokens and context, who was present and what was happening, spiked far above the null distribution. Statistical significance held even after 10,000 permutations, with p-values well below 0.001. The model tracked confidence scores at every step. When the AI predicted the next token in a sequence, it was right far more often than any shuffled baseline. Patterns repeated at regular intervals, hinting at syntax. Some tokens clustered tightly around specific events, a sudden movement, a gathering, a human walking by. Others seemed to mark emotional tone, sharp, high-frequency bursts in moments of alarm, softer, drawn-out notes during calm. The scale of the analysis dwarfed anything previously attempted in avian communication. The model parsed over 2 million individual call events, mapping them into a sprawling web of relationships. Each connection was tested, validated, and cross-checked. What emerged was a structure, not just a jumble of animal sounds, but a system with order, repetition, and internal logic. The evidence was clear. Crows were not just making noise. They were sending messages, and the AI was starting to read the code. The man with the red hat first appeared on a side street, walking past a row of parked cars. A cluster of crows watched from a rooftop, their calls captured by the AI recorders. In the data, one particular sequence stood out, a rapid burst, low, high, low, spaced with uncanny regularity. The AI flagged it, then ran a comparison across the entire dataset. That same sequence surfaced 2 days later at a playground half a mile away. The man was there again, unmistakable in his red hat. The spectrograms matched almost perfectly, frequency, pitch, even the microsecond timing between notes. The odds of a random match, according to the permutation controls, fell below 1 in 10,000. 3 days after the first recording, the man returned to the neighborhood. He paused beneath the same tree. The crows overhead repeated the exact sequence. The AI tracked the sound's fingerprint, every contour, every gap in the waveform. This time the context had changed. The man lingered reading a newspaper, but the identifier call was the same. A week later, something stranger happened. The man visited a different park nearly a mile from the original site. A new group of crows, none of which had appeared in earlier footage, began calling as he approached. The AI isolated their vocalizations and found the same signature sequence, now coming from entirely different birds. The pattern had traveled, outlasting the original flock. Researchers mapped the data, timestamps, GPS coordinates, individual crow identifiers. The unique sequence always tracked the man in the red hat, never appearing when he was absent. The AI's confidence score climbed with each new occurrence. Frequency, pitch, and spacing formed a kind of digital packet, an acoustic marker consistent across days and locations. This was not just a reaction to a stranger or a threat. The crows had assigned a persistent identifier to a single human and passed it on. For the first time, the surveillance felt personal. The network was not just watching humans in general, it was naming them. A crow's mind is not built like ours. Instead of a layered cerebral cortex, their intelligence runs on a dense, tightly packed sheet of neurons called the pallium. In corvids, this structure is so efficient that, gram for gram, a crow's brain holds as many neurons as a monkey's. Comparative studies have found that a New Caledonian crow's pallium can rival the computational power of a primate's cortex, an evolutionary shortcut that lets these birds achieve remarkable feats with a fraction of the mass. This brain power translates into engineering skill. In the forests of New Caledonia, crows fashion tools from pandanus leaves, using their beaks to cut precise strips with serrated, saw-toothed edges. Each tool is shaped for a specific purpose, extracting grubs from crevices or fishing larvae from holes. Some crows even show local styles, with certain flocks favoring staircase-shaped tools, while others produce long, straight implements. Field biologists have documented these patterns for decades, tracing cultural traditions passed down from one bird to the next. In controlled experiments, crows have solved puzzles that stump most animals. The water displacement test, modeled on Aesop's fable, asks a bird to raise the water level in a tube by dropping objects inside. Presented with a choice between heavy stones and light styrofoam, crows consistently pick the denser option, understanding the physics of volume and weight without any training. Where a human toddler might take 10 minutes to grasp the problem, a crow often solves it in less than 60 seconds. Neuroscientists and field researchers describe this as feathered ape intelligence. The crow's mental map is not limited to objects. It extends to mechanisms, sequences, and even the invisible rules behind a machine. Watching a crow approach a new contraption, you see a mind working through possibilities, testing levers, probing for hidden connections. Every action is a data point, every failure a lesson. The result is a bird that can not only use tools, but invent them, refine them, and teach others to do the same. A crow's ability to solve puzzles is just one facet of its intelligence. The real test comes when humans enter the equation. Researchers have spent years probing how crows perceive and remember us, not just as background noise, but as variables to track, model, and sometimes manipulate. One of the most revealing experiments began in 2006 at the University of Washington, under the direction of John Marsluff. The setup was simple. A researcher donned a rubber caveman mask and walked the campus, occasionally trapping and banding crows. On other days, the same person wore a Dick Cheney mask as a control. The reaction was immediate. After the first round of captures, 7 crows began scolding and mobbing the caveman mask whenever it appeared. Over the next few weeks, that number doubled, then tripled. Within months, as many as 40 crows joined the chorus. Many of those birds had never been trapped themselves. The knowledge of the dangerous face spread, passed from one bird to the next through observation and social learning. Years later, the pattern held. Even after the original crows had died, their descendants continued to attack the mask. The memory had become communal, a kind of living wanted poster embedded in the flock's collective behavior. Field notes tallied each escalation, from 7 attackers to 20, then 40, as the network of informed crows expanded. The mask became a symbol, a trigger for coordinated action. It did not matter if the person changed clothes or carried new objects, the face was the key. Marsluff's team documented these encounters meticulously, tracking the spread of the response across campus and into surrounding neighborhoods. Other researchers pushed the boundaries further, designing multi-stage puzzles where crows had to interact with hidden mechanisms or manipulate objects while watched by humans. The birds adapted quickly, learning to anticipate not just what people were doing, but what they might do next. They remembered which humans posed a threat and which could be ignored, updating their strategies over time. The evidence was clear. Crows were not just reacting, they were modeling human behavior, storing it in memory, and sharing that information with the group. The line between animal instinct and social strategy had blurred, and the implications for interactions between humans and crows would only grow more unsettling as the data rolled in. A single crow on a lamppost can trigger a chain reaction across an entire city block. AI's data showed that once a human's face is tagged with a unique acoustic marker, like the red hat sequence, other crows in the area begin to echo that identifier within minutes. The system tracked dozens of these broadcasts, each one propagating outward through overlapping territories. The moment a marked person entered a new neighborhood, the local flock responded instantly, even if none of them had seen that human before. The alert did not stop at the edge of one park or street. Within an hour, the same identifier was detected in audio logs from flocks up to 10 miles away. The spread outpaced a human's own commute. Crows were not just sharing information, they were updating a living database, assigning tokens to faces, and pushing alerts through the network in real time. Changing your clothes or route did nothing. Facial features, eye distance, nose shape, the lines of a jaw remained the anchor. AI's logs filled with time-stamped entries, each one a record of a face recognized, a token assigned, and a broadcast sent. The speed and reach of these alerts hinted at something more than instinct, a system built for surveillance, with humans as the primary variable. When a crow falls, the response is immediate. Flocks gather in silence, forming tight rings around the body. At first glance, these assemblies look like funerals, but the real purpose runs deeper. Researchers notice that during these gatherings, crows issue a series of low-frequency motifs, calls so subtle they barely register above the hum of city traffic. The AI flagged these motifs as distinct from ordinary chatter, clustering them around scenes of death or injury. Each motif carried unique acoustic markers depending on who or what had caused the loss. If a cat lurked nearby, the pattern was clipped and tense. If a car had passed minutes before, the motif stretched longer, almost mournful. When a human stood at the edge, especially one carrying something unfamiliar, the calls shifted again. Threat assessment is woven into every note. The AI model classified alarm calls with remarkable granularity. One sequence signaled a human holding a stick. Another sequence signaled a human with a gun. The difference was not just in pitch, but in the rhythm and spacing, a kind of acoustic fingerprint. Even objects like umbrellas or brooms triggered their own alerts, but only if wielded with intent. The clustering revealed that these alarms spread rapidly, passing from bird to bird until the entire flock responded as one. In moments of danger, the network locked into place, broadcasting warnings with precision. The line between mourning and investigation blurred. Every gathering became a crime scene, every call a data point in a living record of risk. Crows have always been more than silent witnesses to human life. In neighborhoods where people leave food out, a pattern takes hold. Shiny beads, bits of wire, colored glass, small treasures appear on railings and windowsills. These are not random finds. They are gifts left by crows for the humans who feed them. The AI clustering of vocalizations around these exchanges revealed something unexpected. The calls exchanged between crows and their favored humans are softer, higher-pitched, and grouped in distinct patterns. These soft call clusters, almost inaudible to passers-by, stand apart from the harsh alarms and warning bursts of other moments. But the story does not stop at individual relationships. As the AI mapped call types across cities, it picked out regional dialects, distinct clusters in New York, and subtle shifts in London. Then a new sequence surfaced in a Chicago suburb tied to a particular kind of trade. 6 months later, the same call, nearly identical in frequency and spacing, was recorded in St. Louis. The data suggested more than coincidence. Information encoded in sound was traveling from flock to flock, city to city. This was not imitation for its own sake. It was the spread of custom, a meme moving through the analog internet of crow society. In a network built on memory and exchange, even a simple gift could become a signal, one that crossed borders, adapted to new dialects, and stitched distant flocks into a single shifting culture. On a quiet Monday morning, the AI dashboard started flagging anomalies. For months, confidence scores had tracked with reassuring regularity, predicting tokens, parsing sequences and mapping call events to context. Then, at 7:12 UTC, the logs showed a sudden drop. Model accuracy, stable above 90%, fell to near-random levels. Instead of familiar call clusters, the input stream fractured into jagged, unfamiliar rhythms, bursts of sound with no match in any previous dataset. Temporal patterns broke down. The usual syntax markers disappeared, replaced by a pulsing, arrhythmic code. Attempts to retrain the model failed. No permutation test, and no baseline, could account for the collapse. The anomaly appeared across all recording sites, all microphone arrays within the same hour. The system, built to reveal hidden structure, now recorded only noise. For the first time since the project began, the AI was blind, its confidence metrics flatlining, its predictions useless. Something in the code had broken. Within days, the audio stream became unrecognizable. The AI, once confident in its predictions, now stumbled over every fragment. Patterns that had held steady for months dissolved into a strange, pulsing code, irregular, arrhythmic, immune to all previous decoding attempts. This collapse wasn't gradual or isolated. It swept through every recording site at almost the same hour. Hardware checks turned up nothing. Weather logs showed no anomalies. The only variable left was the crows themselves. Corvid adaptability is legendary. Biologists have documented rapid shifts in tool use, vocal dialects, even social customs, sometimes within a single generation. Here, the evidence suggested something more. A coordinated, population-wide change, as if the crows had noticed the microphones and decided to speak in a new tongue. The possibility lingered. Had they realized they were being watched and chosen to hide their secrets? The question hung in the silence that followed. Ethicists studying animal intelligence have raised urgent questions about the consequences of listening in on another species at this scale. The observer effect is well known in behavioral research. Surveillance changes behavior, sometimes in ways that can never be reversed. After AI's sudden failure, calls for transparency grew louder. Several researchers demanded the release of raw audio and model weights, arguing that only open data would allow independent teams to replicate or refute the findings. Urban wildlife officials weighed in, pointing out that crows are protected in many regions, and that mass recording projects might violate local guidelines meant to limit human disturbance. Policy advisors urged the development of new protocols, clear consent standards for animal monitoring, strict limits on intrusive surveillance, and formal review of wildlife studies driven by AI. The debate now extends beyond science. If crows are aware they are being watched, and if their communication adapts in response, the line between research and interference has blurred. The next step is not just technical, it is ethical. The question is no longer only what we can learn, it is what we should do now that the birds know we are listening. Right now, scientists admit we barely understand the minds watching us from every telephone wire. Crows have adapted to human cities for centuries, outsmarting our best attempts to decode them. As AI cracks open new mysteries, the real question is not what crows know about us, but how much we still do not know about them. The next move is theirs. What do you think they are planning? Share your thoughts below.